Well. After a crazy holiday season, I feel like I am nursing the biggest MXTX food coma after that last chapter set. It's Romania Black, and I know it's technically past Christmas as I'm recording this, but I feel like I need to continue celebrating because last week, holy cow, it was nearly 3 hours of just Scum Villain self-saving system. Chapters 93 and 94, chapter 94 particularly, was wild. All the Shinju. Did you want Shinju backstory? Did you want Shinju lore and angst and heartbreak? Here you go. So I've spiked a little nog into the Christmas coffee right now and just basically nursing my Christmas hangover and enjoying the last remaining weeks of 2024 and starting 2025 with Scum Villain. It's kind of weird. I feel like maybe did I end Modao Zushi around the time of the new year? I feel like I ended the Donghua around the time of the new year, or I started in Modao Zushi around the time that the new year had started. That's probably what it is. I probably started the series around the time of the new year, and that's what I'm thinking of, but it's such a crazy feeling. We're going to be ending this book in basically after this week, 3 weeks from now. 4 weeks counting this week, which is we have a month left of Scum Villain, and it's been a wild ride. But anyway, I'm super excited to see what we're going to get with these chapters. I'm hoping that this week, since it is chapter 73, we had that segment where it was chapter 72, and then Shinshingcho kind of couldn't access all the memories of Shinju, and then it went to chapter 74, and I was like, where's chapter 73? And everybody was like, who knows? Maybe it's gone somewhere else. And so knowing this week, as I was planning the weeks out, I got to this point, it was like, okay, chapters 93 and 94, I'm going to read them together because chapter 93 was very short, and chapter 94 was, at the time, I thought, oh, it's a little long, but I can put it in there. Had no clue it'd be so dense, right? And now I was like, okay, chapter 73 and 95. Maybe chapter 95 will, because on my notes here that I have that it goes straight into one another. It doesn't bisect, like chapters 93 and 94 were on opposite ends of the spectrum in the 7 Seas edition. Makes sense why, but here chapter 73 and 95 are together in one segment. So I'm like, okay, we just got done with Shinju backstory. The logical conclusion would be that chapter 73 is going to fill in that gap of what Shinju memories Shinshingcho couldn't access, and then maybe chapter 95 will be a follow-up, or maybe chapter 95 will not be related to it at all and it'll just be what it is. So I know that this is not a very long segment. It's only like 20 pages. So this week definitely most likely will not be as long as last week's. So we'll just say that last week's more than makes up for this week's, and it more than made up for chapters 91 and 92. But yeah, so I'm excited to see what we get, but I do have some comments. As I'm recording this, you all are reading chapters 85 and 86 and 82 through 84, which is really exciting. And so I have some comments based on the start of Volume 4 as you all are getting to it. Breezy3392 said, original Lo Binghe feels a little bit like Zhu Yang for a period. And I was like, yeah, kind of, in the yandere sense. Although I will argue on Lo Binghe's behalf, I will say that I do think Lo Binghe is less edgy than Zhu Yang and less evil than Zhu Yang, so it's different. Zhu Yang kind of reminds me of like the ultimate if Liu Qingge was yandere, that would be Zhu Yang. That's how I view him. If Liu Qingge was yandere, that would be Zhu Yang. But there is some Lo Binghe in there, so I get it. But then Lily kept followed up on their comment and said, I read in an interview that the whole Yi City arc was a novel idea by MXTX that they were playing around in high school. And I remember that in that interview where I read it with Modao Zushi, that the whole Yi City arc in Modao Zushi that Zhu Yang is in was supposed to be its own story that MXTX wrote in high school. And they're like, this isn't enough to be its own thing. And they put it into Modao Zushi. It makes very much sense for Zhu Yang and OG Lo Binghe to have similarities. Yeah, also, Yi City totally fits in the mindset of where MXTX was as a writer in conjunction with Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Now, I will argue, I feel Scum Villain Self-Saving System is a much more robust and nuanced and innovative concept than Ye City. Ye City plays with a lot of tropes that we kind of already know, but it's not, I wouldn't say the Ye City arc is revolutionary, but it's very dynamic and heartbreaking. And the emotion bleeds through, but it's not doing anything revolutionary. Whereas I think Scum Villain, the whole concept of this series is wild and so cool. So I think that there is a big difference there. But I thought that was really interesting because I forgot that Ye City was written by MXTX when they were in high school. Latoria Falla X5576 says that Bing He is to me like, I don't know, an agar plate teeming with bacterial colonies. Super interesting to look at under the microscope, but I wouldn't want it by my bedside. But it's completely fine to look at the same agar plate and be like, nah, those super boring bacterial colonies, and they're highly pathogenic anyway, so just get it away from me. But it's still interesting, if that makes sense. Being gay as an agar plate also sounds like something that the feral fandom would cook up. I wonder if anyone's drawn it before. You know what, Latoria? I honestly hope that if anyone has listened to this comment that you've made or read it, that they are working on Bingay fan art where Bingay is a bacterial colony and Shin Qingqiu's like looking under a microscope and the little bacteria looks up at Shin Qingqiu and goes, Shizoon! And Shin Qingqiu's like, oh shit, what? And then it becomes like a fly scenario where the bacteria becomes a person and Shin Qingqiu's like, it's monstrous, but I'd hit that. Can someone make this fan comic for me? Now I need it. Now I need it in the feral fandom. If y'all can get on that, that'd be great. Can y'all get on that? That'd be great. I need little bacterial Lo Bing He being like, Shizoon! And then Shin Qingqiu being like, ah shit, here we go again! I need scientist Shin Qingqiu AU with Lo Bing He, king of the bacteria, AU stat. I need it. If I could draw it, I would draw it. I could draw it, but it would, you know what? No, I could draw it because it won't be as terrifying as half the things in the feral fandom. So maybe, who knows? We'll get on it. We'll see where that goes. But I thought that was amazing. That's such a great comment, Latoria. I might get on that if I get time. We'll see where that goes. And then Cardboard Sheep said, so my personal headcanon, and they had a really, really interesting perspective on this. I don't know if I fully agree with it, but I do think it's interesting and worth noting, saying my personal headcanon is that Lo Bing He was indeed quite thoroughly blackened by the abyss plus the 5 years of dead Shizoon cuddling. However, once Shin Qingqiu revives, Bing He clocks pretty quickly that Shizoon does not respond well to the new, darker, and more grown-up aspects of his personality. So Shin Qingqiu wants his baby sheep back because that version of Bing He is safe. So that's what Lo Bing He gives him, and he lays it on thick. Shin Qingqiu keeps rewarding Lo Bing He for his behavior by caving every time Lo Bing He lets his lip quiver. I suspect that Shin Qingqiu also, at least on some levels, knows that Lo Bing He is manipulating him, but he is happy to buy it because it means they can go back to the way that things used to be. So yeah, they're both pretending that la la la, nothing has changed. Meanwhile, everybody's looking at them from the outside going, Shin Qingqiu, step away from the literal demon emperor. I don't there's things I find problematic about that. One, that they're lying to each other on a fundamental level, but then they both kind of know. If they both are in on the joke and know that they're lying to each other, then it's like, is that your foreplay? I need them to jump one more bridge to get to that point. If they can communicate and make it known that they both are on the same level and they both get that they're lying to each other and they both know that they're in on it, then I'm okay with it. But I need a little bit more context in the story to get me on board with that theory. But I kind of really like it. I kind of think it's kind of cool. And it would explain a lot, actually. And I'd be like, really, are you two that much of a pair of bakas? And the answer is yes. So there has honestly been a lot of feral fan art in the Discord. So if you're on Patreon, you've probably seen it. There's not any that are like bacteria Lo Bing He and scientist Shizoon that I'm going to draw eventually. But I do think that there is some out there. So if you get a chance, I would encourage you, if you're on Patreon, to check out the Discord channel. There's also been a lot of debate. I would honestly say that Scum Villain has generated the most like divisive debates on the server as far as characters go, which is interesting. which is saying something. I don't know if it's good or not, but it says something. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, we're going to be looking at chapter 73 through 95 today, which is on pages 139 to 158 in the book. The PDF file I have is page 107 to 123. So not a lot of pages this week, but after last week, I was like, oh, my throat hurt after last week's discussion. I had to like take it easy. I told the moderators, I've kind of strained my vocal cords the last few days because I was recording like several very long discussions and reactions, and they were like, take care of yourself. And so I was like, I'll just take it easy. And so I originally was going to add more chapters, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to change up the schedule. I'm sure we're going to generate a healthy discussion out of this, but y'all are off the hook if we get done a little bit early this video. But yeah, so I'm super excited. Thank you all so much for the comments. I really, really appreciate them. I'm super excited to see what we get with this volume. It's going to be a fun ride, I'm sure. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon to thank you all so much for your support at the end of the year and the start of the new year. You all are amazing, and you help support me getting novels like these. And your support over on Patreon when we vote for the new Donmai that is going to replace this series will help me to get those volumes as well. So a special shout out to the philanthropy tier over on Patreon. A bookmark almost fell out. Considering Alex Cornejo, Anime Annie, Be Happy, who is the moderator for this channel for Scum Villain Self-Saving System, as well as Bryant Reed, Damage3245, Dana, Danny Donmai, Devorin, Danger Zone, Destiny Marie, Eric, Ichu, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Liam Poles, Linden, Matthew Palfinier, Maroni W, Murphew, Alexandra Q, Nicholas, as well as Nancy Mass Art, Shimoyama, Sunspots, Trails, Translucent Men, and I alone am the bitchless one. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. Speaking of which, as I'm recording this, it's the end of the year, so this will be coming out the week before the new year on Patreon and the new year on YouTube. So if you are not on Patreon, the first week of January, we are likely going to be voting for the Donmai that will replace that will be replacing. I haven't decided yet, as I'm recording this a little bit early, if I'm going to do probably a nomination the first week of January for the Donmai replacing this, and then the second week will be the actual poll, and that'll give me a few weeks to get ahead on recordings. So that's the plan anyway. So we'll see how that goes. But if you aren't on Patreon and you want a say in what Donmai I see after this, it's just $1 and you can get in on the nominations as well as the polls. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. We are going to dive right into chapter 73, the missing chapter. I'm so excited. And chapter 95. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. I'm super excited because I haven't looked at this yet. I just got to page 106, which is right before page 107. And I'm like, okay, I have been wanting to know about chapter 73 since we got to it, which was literally months ago. So I've been waiting months to find this out. Let's see what this is. Part 26. Airplanes, Fortuitous Encounter. Chapter 73, part 1. What? So, before we dive into this, are we going to be, because this is the chapter that has Shinju memories, but that would take it out, that Shinjincho doesn't know. Did Airplane run into Shinju before Shinyan transmigrated into him? Because we know that Airplane has been as Shang Qinghua since his birth. Like, he went into the infant version of him, so he's grown up with him. So if they're around the same age, he probably ran into Shinju before Shinjincho transmigrated into him. Part 1. Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky was an author of stallion novels. A somewhat well-known author of stallion novels. An author of stallion novels who, even on a site like Zongdian literature, where great gods ran all over the place and lesser gods sprouted up like grass on prime soil, was mentioned with some frequency. That whole thing read like Emperor's New Groove. The poison's gonna kill Cusco's. Cusco's poison. This poison chose specially to kill Cusco. That's exactly the same vibe that I just got from that. I just strained my voice with vocal cords. That extreme speed and perseverance as he updated 10,000 words a day, every day, for 3 straight years. Oh, those periodic burst releases of 8 whole chapters. A daring so bold it could engulf the whole country. To the authors following the same road up from the streets where they had openly prostrated themselves, he was a legend. But he was a legend only to be glimpsed, not obtained. A myth one could search for endlessly, but only meet by chance. Okay, real quick. I teach English, but I don't like using word counts on my assignments. And I've told my students this because I know how students in college are because I was one. When you're given an assignment and you're told a word count, what do? You write all the necessary information that you can think of, and then what do you do to reach the word count? You bullshit. And I tell students this, I'm like, I know you fluff. If I tell you to write a 500-word essay and you get to 344 words, what are you going to do? You're going to fluff the rest of it. And I'm like, why do I want to waste my time? So I usually do give page requirements, like it needs to be at least like 3 to 5 pages, or their final research project needs to be 10 pages. But I'm like, I don't keep track of word counts because that just gets to be tedious. And I feel like that's a parameter that is not, it doesn't connect and equal quality writing. So 10,000 words is how many pages? 20 pages, single spaced. Ooh, single spaced. Double spaced, it would be around 40 pages. So essentially, Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky was writing 20 single spaced pages a day for 3 years. Wait, we're going to go back and do the math on that real quick. So if you did 20, I'm going to get my calculator out. I am not a math person, so I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. So if you had 20 pages, let's say 20 pages single spaced every day for 300, that's 7,300 pages a year, and you do that for 3 years, 21,900 pages. Airplane. What? The question is, where are we going with this? Those harem plot lines whose integrity had been fed to the dogs, as well as those storylines whose intellectual depth had also been fed to the dogs, they were the defining characteristics of his style, and they were enthusiastically discussed by his thousands of readers. Oh, is he gonna meet, are we gonna get to see Shin Yan in the comments? The most common assessment of his work was a popcorn novel. It's indisputably a popcorn novel, but what a satisfying read. That's right. Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky's newest masterpiece, Proud Immortal Demon Way, was the perfect example of a novel with many haters, but even more fans. It was a sort of work that everyone called a popular novel with a terrible reputation. So basically, it's like Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey. Is essentially what it is, right? Those who liked it loved it, while those who hated it could have stomped it into dog shit and spit on it multiple times without satisfying their hatred. This sort of controversial work was inevitably a prime breeding ground for fan-on-hater fights. That sounds like this entire story as a whole. That sounds like this whole story as a whole is just discussing the controversial nature of it. For example, at this very moment, while Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky was mindlessly hammering out the day's new update, he opened a certain famous web novel forum, where he intended to spout some nonsense to gain site XP. He briefly scanned the page, and the first glance made him shudder. His gaze had landed on a trending post that bobbed fiercely up and down on the homepage. It had an extremely aggressive subject line, which included both his pen name and the title of his book. This was not the first time Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky had stumbled onto the scene of a fight. As always, he didn't hesitate to jump into the fray, and he gleefully clicked the link. Sure enough, it was a familiar recipe with a familiar taste. So he was liking the drama. He was like, oh, you trolls, I'm going to jump in and see what y'all said about my work, but you're not going to stop me or rain on my parade. I'm going to keep powering through. He's basically like Michael from The Office that told Pam, she's like, stop dating my mom. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to date her even harder. I'm like, no. Okay. There is going to have to be like a Shin Yan reference in there. There's no way there couldn't be. Number one, 10 years of reading sharpens one's sword. OP. After reading novels online for close to 10 years, I've never read a cultivation novel shittier than Proud Immortal Demon Way. Wait, the MC just spends all day eating, sleeping, and collecting girls, and you have the fucking gall to tell me that this is a cultivation novel? Fuck the logic, fuck the writing, and fuck the author's integrity. I bought these emojis last year. People who liked this novel, come in here and tell me, what part of it did you enjoy? What sort of mindset do you need to read it? How much do you have to hate someone to recommend this novel? I really can't take it. I'm done. How'd they get a hold of my account? No. I don't hate this novel, to be fair. Oh my God. Okay, number 2. Your infatuated pupil. I've wanted to roast it for a long time. Is there even any meaning to the levels system? There's no difference between being at core formation or nascent soul, or even just being an ordinary person. But it's just padding and fluff. Every time I see another paragraph about eating or sleeping, I can't bear to continue. One or two big moments of revenge is all right, but if you throw in 1,000 revenge fantasy episodes, they lose all meaning. In short, it's simply not as satisfying as they say. There's a bit of a pyramid scheme feeling to the whole thing. But the novel's fans are both swift and fierce. I'm guessing they're going to come up and gang up on you soon. Best of luck, OP. I'll give you a saucepan lid to shield you. I'm out. Oh my God, even Huckleberry is like, this writing is shit. I actually kind of love this. I love this so much. Is this making my favorite chapter already? I kind of love this. Also, the idea of a pyramid scheme is exactly what Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky would be a part of. He would be stuck in an MLM, be cognizant of it, but just not give a shit. Number 3, swordsman must say, the writing is shit. All the readers are idiots. Number 4, your sin cannot be forgiven. Who are you calling an idiot up there? What a loser. Number 3, swordsman must say, sounds like a Liu Qingge fan. Number 5, overtaken by longing, mistaking red for green. Mistaking red for green is the first line from a love poem written by the Tang Empress Wu Zixin. Mistaking red for green also sounds like something that would happen between Huachong and Qirong, but that's a different story. Before I opened this post, I knew it would go in this direction. Every time people discuss this novel, they start arguing. I've never seen a single exception, pulling up a chair to watch the fun. See, some of these sound like characters from the story and how they would react, but I don't exactly know, other than Liu Qingge. Like, number 5 sounds like something that Chi would say. Number 6, your sin cannot be forgiven. I'm sick of arguing every time. What's there to argue about? Just because you don't like it doesn't mean other people won't like it. It's really very simple. If you like it, then read it. If not, get lost. Write your own story if you can. You up, you understand? OP started spewing BS before they even finished reading. What's the point of spewing BS just for the sake of spewing? Oh, the rebuttal. 10 years of reading sharpens one's sword. Is 10 years reading sharpens one's sword? Is this supposed to be... Oh no, Peerless Cucumber's about to come in. Never mind. Okay, everyone gather around. Here's an elementary schooler in the flesh. We've even gotten you up. I'm laughing at this wank. Kid, keep reading for a few more years. Is it really wise to waste your time on forums outside of breaks? Watch out, if you can't finish your homework, your teacher's going to tell your parents. Just because you like it doesn't mean other people will like it. See, I'm quoting your own words back at you. Also, I don't need to finish eating a pile of shit before I realize it's a pile of shit, okay? Man, this is feeling like a damn Twitter argument. Number 8, Xia Hualing's Little Bell. I don't think it's as shitty as OP claims. I like reading this novel. I like Xia Meizi. Hugh. So it's just a Xia Hualing fangirl. Okay, y'all. Oh my God. Peerless Cucumber, number 9, expert, who has probably commented so much, has wrote a novel. Oh my God. I want to know. I need to know. Oh my God. I'm so ready to hear what Xinyan has to say about this book. Oh my God. Okay. I understand. I'm going to be like the most sincere because that's what Peerless Cucumber would be in this moment. He would be the most sincere. I understand what OP is feeling. I've been reading this novel lately, and it's so damn long. Long, and pumped full of filler. No! Do you realize what you're saying? Oh no! I'm not going to be able to read this with a straight face. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay. I've never seen villains with a lower IQ than the ones in this book. They're a prime example of cannon fodder with an IQ of 40 and a protagonist with an IQ of 60. It's like the author went on a 24-hour revenge orgasm without once going soft. Most of the female protagonists are stupid, sexy lamps. And the male lead doesn't even bed Liu Mingyan, the only breath of fresh air. He doesn't bed the rightful empress? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God. All my fellow readers have already roasted the setting for the last 300,000 words, so I won't say more on that. The most interesting things in Proud Immortal Demon Way are actually the monsters of the demon realm. It'd be better if those got more focus. The rest is just taking in all 50 girls from a given clan in one go and not a single distinct personality in the lot. And the writing is incomparably atrocious. Every time a woman appears, it's all soft bosoms trembling my ass. You could at least try a different phrase. Even a different word would be fine. You know? Serious question. Who taught Airplane this elementary school level writing? At least the portrayal of the male lead was all right. The transformation from innocent and upstanding to hateful and sinister was detailed and natural. Debts of kindness and grudges were both repaid, and those who should have been killed were mercilessly cut down. Every time I see a useless male lead, I want to slap him in the face. Being gay deserved that gay. He's cool enough and darkened enough. I like him. Shang Qinghua, though, that bastard needs no explanation. And see, this goes back to what they were talking about, was that Shang Qinghua was a fanboy for the original Being Gay, not Being May. So, interesting. Number 10, Sangjiang Mountain stair cleaning manager, whispering silently floating by. Does anyone here like Sect Leader Yu? I like the gentle top type the most. Ah! Oh my God! I mean, Yu Qingyang would be a top. Let's be real. But also, hell yes. See, some of these are like the fans of those particular characters. Number 11, Warrior's Hammer. Boring. It's not as well written as Immortal XX Battle. The difference is huge. That one's a real cultivation novel. The world building is rigorous and the plotline is grand. The author put a lot of thought into it and was very serious with the writing. Number 12, Your Sin Cannot Be Forgiven. Upthread, shitting on one while praising the other feels good, doesn't it? Ha ha ha. Number 13, Refusing to be a plot holer. Cucumber Bro up there wrote how many words just to hate on it? Must be true love. Number 14, 10 years of reading sharpens one's sword. To answer number 12, still at it? I'll turn your own words on you. Aren't there also a ton of Proud Immortal fans who leap at the chance to shit on other novels? Do you want me to flip through the receipts for some screenshots to fling in your face? Number 15, Sangjiang Mountain Gate Guard Platoon. To answer question number 10, whispering silently passing by, does anyone here like Sect Leader Yu? I like the gentle top the most. Grabbing the sister up there. Your sister, right? I like Zaymin Shiyong too. I like him a lot. Is there anything more moe than pampering and indulging, etc. with no bottom line? It's a pity the target was such a disastrous sheedy. The bad end was so complete, I couldn't even sell people on the ship. So they're trying to sell people on the ship of Yu and Lo Binghe maybe? Or Yu and Shinju? Maybe? Interesting. I'm glad that also, I feel like their comment of asking if it's a sister, right, is assuming that the person posting is a woman, but I took it as being a guy that liked Yu Qingyan, so getting into that heteronormity maybe a little bit. Number 16, Chingay's blood brother. That bastard Shin Chingcho needs no explanation. Plus 10,086. My God, to think number 15 can feel moe over anything involving that scum. Just thinking about him makes me want to throw up. He killed my fave. Unforgivable. I always felt it was such a waste that Bison Peak Lord died so early. Great Master Airplane just refused to write him, or else there'd be more ships to choose from. Oh, which is true. They got him out of the way because he was a lot like Lo Binghe. Number 17, occasionally filling holes. Some of these seem a little bit sexual in their terms and titles. Occasionally filling holes. There sure is a lot of info in the last few posts. Did this forum get invaded by weirdos? Number 18, Peerless Cucumber, expert. Upthread, keep cool. This forum has a lot of green JJ sisters. Oh, interesting. Number 19, a stately waiter. Of course it's true love for Cucumber Bro, but the stuff he spews here isn't as vicious as what he puts in the comments. Not malicious enough. Thumbs down. Number 20, hoeing wheat is my noontime occupation. Oh my God, which is a reference to a line in a poem by Tang poet Li Xin, one of the pair of poems written to depict agricultural life in the feudal era. This line is used to make dirty jokes because sun, noontime sun, is also used as to fuck, though this particular surname is an indirect allusion. I don't know. Hoeing wheat is my noontime occupation. I want that as a title. Oh my God. The proud Immortal fans here are here to argue again. I see this novel everywhere. The novel's quality doesn't live up to its popularity. No way Airplane didn't pay for shills. Sit back and wait for the next time the forum data guru makes a post. Their analysis will show whether he's spam voted. Number 21, hoeing wheat is my noontime occupation. To answer number 4, who are you calling an idiot up there? What a loser. What a joke. The school kids who like to read shit books like Proud Immortal have the nerve to call people losers? No one's a bigger loser than you. Chingay's blood brother, number 22. To start firing into the crowd because of one or two people, you must be drunk. The way number 20 is shit stirring, is that just the OP's alt? Airplane gets a lot of upvotes because he's got no bottom line when begging for clicks. He'd even grovel naked on the ground. And not to pass judgment on anything else, but look at Airplane's update rate. He posts 10,000K every day and 25K bursts on the weekends. How many people can do that? Put the question of quality aside for now. 25K on the weekends is insane. Number 23, looking for friends at the North Pole every day. I wrote some Bingay slash Scum Shin slash. Don't know if anyone wants to see. Signing up for a rare pair is like going to the North Pole. So painful. Looking for ships in a Zongdian novel is also seeking death. Looking for friends at the North Pole every day is a really good name too. Number 24, Sangjiang Mountain Stair Cleaning Manager. Slash writing sister, don't go. Does it have smutty content? Please, sob, sob, sob. Number 25, occasionally filling holes. Airplane really doesn't know how to write romance plot lines. It'd be better if he just didn't. I feel like Lo Binghe doesn't have the feelings for a single one of his wives. He just wants to use them. And I can't see how many of these women have really fallen in love with him. Which is true because that's not how he's not actually into women. And I feel like Airplane knew that as he was writing. He was just doing it for the shills. Number 26, Warrior's Hammer. As long as he collects all the girls, it's fine. Who cares if they're romance or not? Man, Warrior's Hammer is a dick. Literally. Number 27, Peerless Cucumber, expert. Filling holes, bro. You're joking. You want Airplane not to write the harem? 4/5 of the book would be gone. Number 28, Overtaken by Longing, mistaken red for green. But I feel like I can see which Peak Lord has really fallen in love with which Peak Lord. Delusional. But speaking seriously, the same-sex interactions he wrote between brothers and comrades were all much more detailed and natural than Bingay's scenes with his wives. That deep emotion was practically visible to the naked eye. Airplane really is a natural Fudanshi. P.S. to the sister at number 24, guess you'll eat anything when you're starving, huh? Oh my God, Overtaken by Longing has figured it out that yes, Airplane was writing much more detailed love scenes for those characters. I can't imagine why. Hoeing for wheat is my nighttime occupation, says for number 29. This post has been hidden due to a personal attack. Currently waiting for the poster to edit. Oh. With his legs propped up, Great Master, Airplane shooting towards the sky, stirred his instant noodles as nonchalantly rolled the scroll wheel on his mouse, skimming over the forum posts. His eyes automatically highlighted that familiar ID, Peerless Cucumber. Vicious sniping that flowed like a running stream, a cucumber forged of iron. Even though this famous Lord Cucumber spewed criticism constantly and without end in Great Master Airplane's comment sections, his subscription payments and demands for updates never waned. Because of this, Great Master Airplane had come to suspect this person was a masochist. Very good. You have successfully attracted my attention. Like some sort of domineering billionaire CEO, Great Master Airplane began to coolly review Cucumber Bro's howling in the comments section. I mean, look, before we get into the comment section and what this is, I fully understand kind of what Shang Qinghua is doing, because it's one of those things like, I kind of would liken this to my experience reading Berserk, kind of. It's one of those things where I kept reading, and there were times where I was really pissed off at the story, and times where I was really mad at the author and didn't like what I was reading. But I kept going because I was invested in the main character, and I wanted to see what happened to him, and I wanted to see what happened to some of the other characters. So on the one hand, it's like, yeah, why, when you don't like something, or when you're that scathing with your comments, why would you keep reading? But on the other hand, I get why he would keep reading, because if you liked something initially and you see the potential in it, you want to see if that potential, if the author finally realizes that and brings it to fruition. So I totally get it. I get where Shang Qinghua's coming from. I do. But yeah, in the end, he concluded, this guy was just like a woman married to a disappointing husband. She itched to jump on his back, to grab and shake him by the neck, filled with love and hate as she simultaneously kissed and spat on him. Peerless Cucumber was locked in precisely this type of conundrum, unable to extricate himself from following this novel while he cursed, "Why can't I control this damn hand that just keeps clicking on the read button?" Your mouth says no, but your body says yes. As Great Master Airplane delivered his final verdict, he smacked his computer table, howling with laughter. I hate that line. Your mouth says no, but your body says yes. I don't know if he's trying to, if the whole married to a disappointing husband is supposed to be like his relationship with Shang Qinghua necessarily, and as the author of the novel, or if it's commenting on Lo Binghe and him as a relationship. But anyway, he smacked his computer table, howling with laughter at this. This one smack was disastrous. His instant noodles toppled over, splashing all over his beloved, hardworking, and invaluable keyboard, drenching it in 1,000 kilometers worth of spicy broth. Airplane turned pale with fright, quickly leaping up to rescue it, but he jumped too high, and his foot caught on the power strip, and with a crackle, his laptop screen went dark. After this chain reaction wherein extreme joy turned to profound sorrow, Airplane's face went deathly white. What the fuck? He'd just been scrolling through the forums while downloading movies and typing away. His file had still been open. Fuck! That's what you get, Airplane. That's what you get for doing the whole, my mouth says no, but my body says yes. That's what you get for that bullshit. That's your punishment for assuming something like that. He couldn't have lost today's update just like that. He'd gotten to 8,000 words. Oh! He subconsciously threw himself down next to the power strip, picking up the plug to shove it back in the socket, only to experience firsthand what could have been called a full-body electrocution, like lightning from the ninth heaven. Oh. Holy shit. So we aren't going back to Shinju. We're going to airplane shooting towards the sky. Oh my god. Well, so that's how he died. That's what you get, bitch. That's what you get for saying that word, for saying them outdated phrases. That's what you get. Oh my god, that chapter was amazing. That chapter was amazing. I love that so much. Okay. So my question was, if he was in the middle of writing the story, how did it end up getting finished if he was in the middle of writing all the updates? How did it get to the end if he died and was transmigrated? Because didn't he transmigrate to Shang Qinghua as an infant? Chapter 95, Part 2. And how does that tie in? We'll talk about it after this chapter with the discussion of how it ties into the other chapters. I'm going to have to go get volume 3 out. What are you daydreaming about, you moron? Get to work. Great. Master Airplane shooting towards the sky spat out the green foxtail hanging from his lips with a p. Internally, he waved 1,000 middle fingers and yelled 1,000 words beginning with F at this fiendish Onding Peak Shizhong. But when he turned around, he wore a flowery smile. He plastered on the expression and flounced him, calling, "I'm coming!" "All you do is slack off," ex-Shizhong spat. The older-than-average outer disciple Shang Qinghua, who currently occupied a 17-year-old body, looked around in all directions as he trailed behind the main team, who were unloading goods from the ship onto the docks. Indeed, Great Master Airplane could now be referred to as Shang Qinghua. That wretched reprobate from the stallion novel he had written with his own 2 hands, that treacherous spy who toiled assiduously for Mobei-jun all his life, only to be thrown aside by his cold-hearted and unfeeling boss as soon as he lived out his use, that cannon fodder, that logistics guy, that Shang Qinghua. Although, at this time, he was still an outer disciple who could be pushed around by everyone on Onding Peak. He wasn't yet head disciple, and he hadn't changed his name to join the Qing generation. Onding Peak was, in itself, very stifling of a sort of peak. The Peak Lord was like a director of housekeeping services department, stifling. Even when leading disciples, he was like an unpaid hourly worker, also stifling. The outer disciples didn't even bear much mentioning. They were at the very lowest end of the food chain, the most stifling of the stifling. Everyone had huge reserves of pent-up anger. Those with more seniority bullied those with less. That was simply the routine state of things. It's like a 9-to-5 office job. Shang Qinghua would occasionally utter a silent curse. Just you wait until I take the position of Peak Lord. Just see if I don't. However, he swiftly extinguished these flights of vain fancy. Think about it. Taking the position of Peak Lord meant enjoying assistance from the demon realm, which meant acquiring Mobei-jun as a boss, which would lead to the end result, getting thrown away by said boss as soon as he'd lived out his use. He wouldn't even get a clean death. It went without saying, not worth it. If Shang Qinghua could have done as he wished, he would have stripped off his sect robes and rolled up his bedding, rushed down Sangjiang Mountain, escaped the cultivation world, and fled towards a free life as a poor commoner. If he relied on all the research he'd done to write a transmigration stallion novel in his past life, such as how to create soap, glass, the abacus, etc., he believed he could live freely and easily. But as soon as this sort of thought appeared in his head, oh, he gets his own system, yes! I feel like the system for Shang Qinghua should not sound like the system for Shin Qingqiu. So it should not sound like Google Translate. It should sound maybe like a Valley Girl. Like rule violation, point deduction. maybe it should be British. Rule violation, point deduction. No, that sounds too classy. Rule violation, point deduction. Maybe something like that. We'll see. So, he transmigrated into his own stallion novel. Why hadn't he been assigned to the protagonist? And okay, so what if he wasn't protagonist? What was up with this damn system? It was all the OP's fault. If he hadn't started that fight, Shang Qinghua wouldn't have suffered the brunt of it. And then there was that perilous cucumber. Curse him! May he never get a chance to use that cucumber for the rest of his life! Well, if he's bottoming the whole time, then I guess he's not. Shang Qinghua moved box after box of heavy books from the ship onto a flatbed cart. As he hitched up the horse, he continued to endlessly stew over his grudges. Cultivation novels usually hand-waved inconsequential things like how goods were shipped. In the end, Shang Qinghua had only himself to blame. Damn it. Why hadn't he written a low fantasy setting where all the hard labor had to be done by hand? He'd only managed to screw himself over. Okay, in fact, what he really wanted to say was, Xi Jinping really fucking knows how to use people for all they're worth. They were the ones who made all the trouble. If you were helping Shanshu Peak's female immortals and fairy maidens transport cosmetics, hairpins, new clothes, and whatnot, even if it was tiring, at least you felt light in your heart. Though it was hard for the body, it was sweet for the soul. But when you had to act as the porter for Xi Jinping, what was up with that? Every time they made a purchase, it was hundreds and hundreds of kilograms of books. Then they would make Onding Peaks. People huff and puff all their way down the mountain to fetch them and huff and puff all their way back up to the peak. Meanwhile, they'd be living the high life, their butts stuck to their seats and their fingers stuck to their instruments. They'd just sit and wait for the goods to be delivered to their door. To hell with that aloof demeanor. If you have the legs, then come down and get the stuff yourself. The other outer disciples were also complaining. So basically, Shang Qinghua became a temp for Amazon. Or UPS or whatever. It's obvious those Xi Jinping disciples look down on our Onding Peak. But time and again, we have to work like beasts for burden for them. Especially that Shin Qingqiu, one person said indignantly. He's way too full of himself. His nose is stuck straight up into the air. So what if Zhu Ya has a bit of a name for itself? He's far too arrogant. He even dares to provoke Bison Peak's head disciple Liu Qingge. How would he even care about nameless foot soldiers like us? Given Bison Peak's temper, given Liu Qingge's temper, how has he not gotten himself killed yet? How could he? You think Yu Shizhong would just stand by and watch? So long as he's around, Liu Qingge can't kill Shen Qingqiu no matter what. What I don't know is how Shen Qingqiu got chosen as head disciple after starting cultivation so late, said another outer disciple who joined Sangzhong Mountain in an older age, his expression sour. They say he had a good relationship with Yu Shizhong, but I've never seen him go to Qiangding Peak. And even when he does see Yu Xiong, he keeps that damn fake expression all aloof and whatever. But if you said they weren't friendly, that wouldn't seem right either. Shang Qinghua kept his silence, choking down his own words. How I long to gossip. How I yearn to take up the backstory I outlined, but I ended up killing in the cradle to toss it in your face. No one's got a clearer sense of those old affairs of years long past than this great master, your omnipotent creator. I am loving this from his perspective. Yes. Shrouded in resentment, the whole party muttered their grievances like a broken record, getting angrier and angrier, their envy and hatred mixing together. But who could say who they were trying to argue with? Shang Qinghua drove the cart, shoulders hunched. Whenever someone addressed him, he brushed them aside with a laugh, being careful not to add anything. Sure, they were enthusiastically proclaiming their sufferings now, but you never knew when, someday in the future, they'd covertly go and tattle on the very people who had complained today. Running your mouth was fun in the moment, but once someone reported you and you caught the attention of the other peak disciples, you'd be in serious hot water. Human hearts were treacherous. You couldn't forget to guard against them. Ha! The road after the rain was full of potholes. As the wheels rolled over them, the car pitched left and right. During one such pitch, the system sent Shang Qinghua a notification with a ding. Upcoming mission. Be prepared. When Shang Qinghua heard this, his face creased like a chrysanthemum. He smiled ubiquitously. System, Dage, aren't you skimping a bit, being so brief with the messages? Couldn't you tell me what this mission is? What preparations? Prepare for what? At least give me a tip, okay? You will see. The system said vaguely. Shang Qinghua was silent. No, this esteemed one sees nothing. Then, with a crack, the flatbed cart suddenly stopped moving, seemingly stuck on something in the ground. The outer disciple Shizhong, whether on the cart or following along behind, jolted along with it, and it all fell all over the place. They were already steaming with anger, and they summarily began to smack the rails and curse with rage. Are you moron? You can't even properly drive a cart. Well, go already. What are you stopping for? Shang Qinghua didn't know why the cart had suddenly gotten stuck either. Puzzled, he jumped off. After a single look, his soul fell off in a fright. The reason why the wheels couldn't move was because the water in the hole they were stuck in had iced over, freezing the wooden wheels solid. All around them, a formless cloud in the air weighed oppressively down. Winter was cold, but Shang Qinghua's heart was even colder. Shaking uncontrollably, he lifted his gaze. A shadow draped in a black cloak slowly walked towards them, straight and tall. One could vaguely make out the figure of a youth. For once, the system said a few more words. Current opponent's anger points, 1,000. Mission objective, survive. Tip complete. We wish you the best of luck. Great master airplane shooting towards the sky had a bad habit. That was, he cut plot points. Before he officially set pen to paper on future chapters, he would first plant little sprouts in the novel. Then he would watch how the winds were blowing in the comments section, and using this information, he would decide which plot lines to follow from his overall outline. So he made this whole thing a choose-your-own-adventure, which explains the multiverse theory. For instance, the Shen Qingqiu, who had been called a cheap villain with no justification, 10,000 times was a tragic product of plot cuts. Oh, and then there was Bingay's dad. His plot had been cut even more viciously, to the point that in the end he hadn't even appeared. The benefit of this method was that he could cater to the readers. It at least guaranteed that his subscription count wouldn't take a huge dive and crash to its death in the pool at rock bottom. The consequence was that buried foreshadowing went to waste, and there were gaps all over the ground, leaving it bumpy and full of plot holes, or potholes. Any readers who had some standards, or who had a bit more taste and weren't as easy to fool, would rain curses on the author without restraint. Airplane shooting towards the sky had often been depressed about it too. The thing was, He actually didn't like repeatedly writing all the crazy revenge stuff either, especially when it was getting revenge on a crowd of villains with IQs lower than the bar on the ground. Once in a while, he wanted to craft a three-dimensional villain. Still cannon fodder, but with multiple sides, to show that he also had done some basic research on human nature and that he had some literary standards too. But the readers never bought it, so he couldn't guarantee that he'd make a living. So, what did human nature and literacy ideals count for against readers in making a living? Back on topic. Precisely because this bad plot-cutting habit, many of the original particulars of the story have been lost, doomed to suffocate in the womb. For example, when had Mobei-jun captured Shang Qinghua? Naturally, the main text had never brought it up. The main text plotline was just Bingay oozing badassery, slaughtering and massacring people all over the place. Who gave a fuck how that one cannon fodder became a spy? However, this world automatically filled in the parts that had been cut. Therefore, Great Master Airplane had categorically lost the authorial advantage of foreknowledge. Therefore, whenever the plot began to develop, he was always a few good beats late before he caught on to what was going on. Xizang drew his sword, which, as an Engding disciple, had never the chance to be unsheathed even after 800 years, and let out a vigorous yell, "What sort of evildoer dares to cross us?" One after another, the disciples all became agitated, and they subsequently unsheathed their swords as well. You dare to appear in front of Sangjiang Mountain sect's disciples? Mobei-jun was clearly in an extraordinarily bad mood. He didn't even let the cannon fodder finish their traditional opening monologues before his knuckles cracked. A storm of icy arrows swept through the air, and heads slammed to the ground one by one. One side of Shang Qinhua's mind shrieked, while the other howled, "So scary, but also so cool! Real fucking cool!" I'm aroused and terrified. But regardless of whether he was cool enough to shake the heavens and the earth, and to make devils and deities cry, if that guy was destined to kill Shang Qinghua in the future, he absolutely was not friend material. Suddenly, Xizang shoved his shoulder. "Get down there!" Shang Qinghua felt like his heart was being fried in oil and roasted over a fire, but his mind was wholly sober. He stuck his hands and feet to the cart as securely as chewing gum. "Well, get down and do what?" "Defeat the demon and defend the righteous way. Execute the will of the heavens." "Why don't you go first?" thought Shang Qinghua. "After you, Xizang!" Xizang flew into a rage. "Well, I told you to go, so go. What's with your nonsense?" More hands and feet joined. "Oh no! Oh no!" More hands and feet joined Xizang in kicking and prying Shang Qinghua off. Obviously, he understood what was going on. These outer disciples just wanted him to stall Mobei-jun, to give them time to escape. His mind was as clear as a mirror, and his current stance couldn't have been any more fixed. Shang Qinghua clung firmly to his base of operations and refused to be moved. "Xizang, I don't wanna," he sobbed. "Our comrades will remember how you made me go to be cannon fodder at a time like this." Xizang began to ramble incoherently in terror. "What cannon fodder? If you can defeat this monster of the demon race, you'll definitely earn great merit. You'll soar like the divine steed, Feng Huang. This is the only way out for us outer disciples. The opportunity is right in front of your eyes at this very moment." Shang Qinghua couldn't hold on to the cart much longer. He whimpered like his organs were being ripped apart. "I'm going then. I'm really going! Damn it, why is it done now? No! No! Ugh! Are you freaking kidding me? No! Oh! Son of a bitch! Out here with my booze and my coffee and my hydration having to double fist because what was this chapter set? Oh my god! So, and then follow. I'm sorry, what? I had all sorts of ideas of what would happen in this chapter set. I had all sorts of ideas. I was like, oh, it's going to be like another flashback into Shinju, or it's going to be this, or it's going to be that. No. I forgot to go get volume 3 because I was so just So basically, after the whole mansion thing, there are bits and pieces of Shin Ching-cho's memory that are spotty. And so then we cut straight to chapter 74. My only question is, why did MXTX make that chapter 73? Why did MXTX find it necessary to bypass the plot and cut from Shinju's backstory to this and then back to Shin Ching-cho waking up? I mean, I guess it was at that point to kind of give some information about Shin Ching-cho, maybe before we dived into the ending of because after chapter 74, it all kind of like everything from chapter 74 onward builds towards the climax of volume 3. So I guess that was MXTX's one shot of being like, yeah, here's some backstory with Airplane and Shin Ching-cho, just so you can get a little bit more into his character. And then maybe MXTX was like, this was not a good place to put it, so I'm just going to move it back to the extras when we publish, because it makes more sense. It makes more sense to go here with chapter 95, 100%. I was not prepared nor ready for us to immediately dive in to Shang Qinghua, but I'm so glad we're here. I will confess to you all, when I was in college, that was when Twilight was coming out. Did I humor my friend and go to a Midnight Sun release? But what was the fourth book? What was the fourth book of Twilight? It was like the last one. Was it the Twilight books? The last one, I feel like there was it was a 4-part series. The final one was Breaking Dawn. Yes, Breaking Dawn. Midnight Sun. What I was going to get at is that I did go to a Breaking Dawn midnight release party with a friend of mine who really, really liked Twilight. I read it, but I kind of was like a casual reader. I was like, this is fun. It's vampires. When I was in college, vampires and werewolves were all the thing. All the media. You had True Blood going on. I read the True Blood series. It was all smut. It was fun. It was just like, I didn't take it seriously. I would have been like, but it was just like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. Read about Sookie, read about old Bella. Although, granted, I thought Twilight was kind of like ridiculous when I read it in college. But my one friend was really into it non-ironically. And I was like, okay. So I went to a midnight book release because it's a midnight book release. Why wouldn't it be fun? And we hung around, watched people's partners be really miserable. We were like, yeah. And it was just a fun time. I really enjoyed it. But later on, Stephanie Meyer released Midnight Sun, which was told from Edward Cullen, the vampire's perspective, instead of Bella's. I'm going to be real with you all. I would read a whole damn book from Shang Qinghua's perspective. After reading these 2 chapters, I want to read a whole book from his perspective. I want the Midnight Sun of Scum Villain. And here's the thing, y'all. So chapters 73 and 95 are right here in the 7 Seas. It's right after Zhuxilong, so it's pretty much just kind of sandwiched in between, right, Zhuxilong's here, and then we had the whole Shinju and all of that, which I guess makes sense to put it there. MXTX like, now we'll backtrack back to Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky now that we've brought up Shinju again. Sure, but 7 Seas has it right there. Then, obviously, chapter 100 is going to be about Shin Ching-cho and Lo Bing-hei. We know it's going to be. They're the main characters. It's going to all tie back around to them. Chapter 93 was the interview questions, so it's all going to tie back around to them, whatever. But next week, we know that chapter 96, which is the only chapter I'm looking at next week because it's its own chunk, is going to be next week. And that's going to be about Shang Qinghua because chapter 95 ended right smack dab in the middle. Classic MXTX cliffhanger. Then we have chapters 97 and 98 and chapter 99. Now, I could be wrong, and they could be delving in to other characters that we haven't touched about yet, but we've talked about Yu Qingye, we've talked about Yu Qingyan, we've technically talked about Liu Qingye, although some of these chapters could be about Liu Qingye. I'm not going to throw that out. Could be about that, but we've talked about Tianlong Jun. We've brought up some other characters. If the rest of the chapters that I read, except for the final chapter, are about Shang Qinghua and possibly Mobe Jun, I'm going to be a very, very happy person. Because I'm kind of all about this. I'm like, yes, we have needed to see Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky answer for their sins. But also, the end of volume 3, one of the things that intrigued me the most, that I've been waiting for more information on, was when Mobae-jun was falling and Shang Qinghua was like, fuck, he can't fly, and goes after him, and Shang Qinghua was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm saving him, dumbass. And it's like, at that moment, I was like, Shang Qinghua, aka Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky, was so unabashedly on board with saving him. I was like, where did this come from? What is this? What is going on? And it was just so wild to me. And so I have wanted to know since that moment what led up to that. Because as far as we know, as far as the story starts, we know in the OG version that Shang Qinghua ends up being a spy. He ends up being used by Mobae-jun as well as Lo Binghe. And then once his usefulness has wore off, he ends up being killed by Mobae-jun. And that's the end of his character. And now in the new version, what we've seen so far is that we're getting the gaps to fill in what's happened here to him working with Mobae-jun. We kind of got in the novel the fact that he was working for him and doing reconnaissance and stuff like that. But there's this period where we don't know, like, what led them to be on good terms. Because we saw them in Volume 3. We saw Shang Qinghua with Mobae-jun. Mobae-jun wasn't trying to kill him. And then we had Shang Qinghua saving Mobae-jun. And for Shang Qinghua to save Mobae-jun means that there is a relationship there. It means that there is a relationship. They are close, if not closer. And there is a reasoning behind it. And ever since Volume 3, I've been like, I want to know. And we're finally getting to that. And I'm like, yes, yes. Chapter 73 is maybe one of my favorite chapters in the series. It's so meta. It's so weird. It's so out there and freaking hilarious that I want to go back through it. But I am just absolutely floored that I did not see this coming. I did not see these two chapters being about Shang Qinghua. I figured we would get to him at some point and he'd have a chapter, but the possibility that maybe the rest of this book is going to be about him, except for chapter 100, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So, to the moderator's credit, when Be Happy told me after chapter 89 and chapter 90, after chapter 80 and 81, I was in a really bad place with this story. And I was like, is volume 4 even worth it? And Be Happy was like, yes, volume 4 is worth it. And that's all that they would say. And I was like, okay. And then I was kind of like, okay, all right. And then we got to chapter, and leading up to chapter 89, I was like, well, this is fine. It's okay. I've still got some problems with it, but it's fine. And then chapter 89-90 happened, and I was so mad. And I was like, Be Happy, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, this just sucks. And then in chapter 91 and 92, I was like, okay, fine. We got Jushi Long. All right. And then chapter 93, I was like, okay. And then chapter 94, I was like, oh, this is really good. And now I get it, I think. And I think I'm going to get it even more in weeks to come. And I'm so excited about that. Yes. So, all right, y'all, let's talk about this. So one thing that I really like about this is Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky is giving all of the Kronk energy from Emperor's New Groove and just doing like, he's got his own theme music. Like just basically Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky is they want to be Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, but they're actually Dee Dee. They think that they're so like, look, I've got these plebeians in the palm of my hand. Let them create more engagement. And like basically Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky was a rage baiter. They were a rage baiter. They were sitting there being like, yes, I'll do whatever the algorithm wants, and I'll do whatever gets me the most views, and I'll sit there, and if people are mad, it will just generate more views and engagement and make me even more powerful. Yes, let the hatred flow. Your anger makes me even more powerful. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. And the scary thing is, I could see Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky in real life because those creators exist. So I'm like, oh my God, what? And I'll be honest, a lot of the fears that Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky has are fears that I have personally been holding back so long because I have lots of stories in my head of stories that I would love to do. And it's so much easier to think up a story in your head than to write it down on paper. And you all know that. But one of the big things is I would love to do, like, I've seen a couple of people create their own original fiction and put it on like on AO3 and say, this is my original work and here's all my things, and getting feedback on there. And a lot of it I've wanted to do the same, but some things that have always held me back is, one, what if I make decisions that people think are stupid? What if they don't like my work? What if it doesn't do anything? What if it feels like a waste of time? And Airplane, to their credit, kind of addresses that in this chapter, saying like, I was doing 10,000 words a day, 20 to 40 pages double spaced a day, almost double that on the weekends. Like, when you put in all of that work, it's really easy to want to keep that engagement going. And I see that myself. Like, this last month, there's been 2 series on this channel that haven't gotten a lot of views, like my Trigun Maximum reactions and my Run with the Wind novel reactions. They don't get a lot of engagement, which sucks because they're both amazing series and I've had so much fun doing those videos, and they've been like passion projects and I've really loved them. But I'm gonna be honest with you, as a content creator who's put hours of work into doing the reactions and doing the editing and putting them online, it is really disheartening when you put all that heart and soul into it and then there's like 80 views and you're like, but you have 11,000 subscribers and 80 of them checked it out. And you're like, oh. And it hurts because in the back of your head, if you're a content creator, you're thinking, okay, well, luckily I'm someone that can rely on Patreon. So thanks again, Patreon. But it's like, if I were relying upon YouTube views to make money, if you have videos like that tank in views compared to the other ones, it will make you disappear from people's searches. You will disappear from YouTube and the algorithm will drop you like that. So if I were, luckily I don't monetize YouTube, so I'm not dependent upon that, but I'm sure some reactors are. So if things don't do well for them with the algorithm, then they're tempted to drop them. Even if they're having so much fun and loving those reactions and loving what they're doing, it's so tempting for them to drop it because it's not popular and it's not getting them any engagement that, as Airplane says, they need to survive. And it's wild. And I get it. Luckily, I'm not bound to that. And so I'm kind of privileged as far as that concerned. Like, Patreon keeps me funded. But I get it. The people that they're relying on this for their income, yeah, you have to kind of play the AI game. And that's kind of what Airplane's doing here. And then, but the part that gets me, I mean, I like that they call it a popcorn novel, which seems to... I am glad that at least Scum Villain, I would not describe Scum Villain as a popcorn novel. No. If I'm honest, I wouldn't describe any of MXTX's works as popcorn novels. Like, there's some series you watch. I've watched a couple shows on the channel. I'm like, oh, that was just kind of cute. It was fun. It's fluffy. I'm glad I watched it, but I'm not like, it's not deep, but I would argue that all of MXTX's work is fairly deep. And I would not describe it as, when I think of popcorn novel, I think of mainstream. I think of like anybody can watch it and it's just like you just turn your mind off and just watch for 90 minutes and it's over, right? I think of like the Venom movie. The Venom movie is like a popcorn flick. You just like ignore everything, get on for the sensation, and then for shipping Eddie and Venom and then go from there. But when I think of MXTX's novels, I can't just turn my mind off because no, you have to be thinking while reading those 100%. So yeah, it's a fun time. But anyway, so what I like about it is that Shang Qinghua basically pulls up a chair and says, I'm going to listen to all these trolls and just lean my chair back, watch them give my algorithm a boost, and then go from there. And so I wanted to comment on I wanted to write down the people that were commenting, because there's several that comment all like multiple times. So one commenter, if we can put them up here, one commenter is called 10 years of reading sharpens one's swords, and they're also called OP. So 10 years of reading sharpens one's sword, and they're also called OP. And their basic view of the novel is that it is garbage. And they're complaining about it, which is fun. Then we have your infatuated pupil. So we have your infatuated pupil. And they basically are a bystander, but they agree with what's going down. The one that says swordsman must say, I thought that was like a Liu Qingge, but then we have another Liu Qingge rep there. But swordsman must say is very short, but agrees. Then we had your sin cannot be forgiven. Your sin cannot be forgiven. And they basically are just a bystander too. Then we have from there, overtaken by longing. Overtaken by longing, mistaking red for green. I feel like that also is talking about another thing with love, like mistaking red for green. I'm like, are they mistaking a red flag for a green flag, meaning that they shouldn't be approving of this, which is interesting. Okay, and then your sin cannot be given. Who are you calling idiot up there? What a loser. So no, the overtaking is a bystander as well, but this one is disagreeing. All right. Then over your sin cannot be forgiven also seems like they're also, so yeah, they're disagreeing. They think it's okay. 10 years reading. And then we have Sha Ling's Little Bell. Sha Ling's Little Bell seems like a fangirl. Then we have our Peerless Cucumber. Oh my God. So everybody's just pretty much disagreeing and just commenting on it and how it's whether it's good or bad. Then Shin Yan comes in with this novel. And the thing is, he's mainly just, it's not that he's calling Airplane out, you know, for being just a shit writer, but he's pointing out why. He's saying, like, here's the things that I don't like. He's like, the people's IQ, the female characters that have no personality, the fact that Liu Mingyan doesn't get any credit for, you know, being a refreshing character, and the fact that the monsters, of course, Shin Qingqiu being the monster fucker, is like, the monsters are the only cool thing in the story. And he's like, and then talking about the writing and how it's not developed and how it's poor quality. The thing that gets me is the very first line where he says, it's so damn long and pumped full of filler. I felt like I wanted to be Michael Bluth telling Tobias, being like, you really need to listen to what you're saying. Just a sexual innuendo. And then the fact that he called all the girl characters stupid, sexy lamps. And then the fact that he also says, he's like, oh, at least the portrayal of the male lead was okay. I love that he's like, oh, Lo Binghe, you know, his transformation into, you know, hateful and sinister, it felt so natural. And, you know, everybody's like, who should have died. And, you know, every time I see a useless male lead, I just want to slap him. He's like, you know, Binghe deserved that gay. He was cool enough and darkened enough. I like him. Which is so weird to me because Shin Qingqiu, he says, I think that this is a good example of Shin Yan when he was reading the novel, kind of like what he did with Sha Hualing. He had this envisioned image of what he thought Lo Binghe was, and he thought Lo Binghe was badass and cool, and then he couldn't quite see why that was a problem until he put himself into Shin Qingqiu's shoes and realized, oh, this is bad, and actually we don't want him to be like this. So then the first part in volume 1, he was trying to get Lo Binghe to change who he was, who he ends up becoming, because he was just trying to save face and save himself. Like, he didn't necessarily hate how Lo Binghe became in the original novel, but he knew in this case it was going to kill him, so he's like, no, we need to not let that happen. But then I feel like along the way, as he tried to prevent Lo Binghe from becoming this mass murdering demon emperor, along the way, as he did that, he discovered, oh, actually, I kind of like him being this little white lotus. I kind of like him being this little lamb. Like, this is nice. This is great. Okay. And then I feel like by the end of volume 3 and into volume 4, Shin Qingqiu is kind of like, when he describes him in the 100 question interview that we got last week, he said that he likens Lo Binghe to a black lotus. I feel like this is what Lo Binghe ultimately is what Shin Qingqiu wants him to be. He wants him to be like a lotus. He wants him to not be a murderer and kill people, but at the same time, he doesn't want him to just be innocent. He likes, I want you to be like, you know, I want you to be a nice, caring lover, but also have a dark side to him. And maybe that means that Shin Qingqiu's okay with all of the stuff that happens to him, and he just likes to bitch and complain, even though he's taking it. Like Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky says he's a masochist. Maybe Shin Qingqiu is. That is another way that him and I are very different. Maybe he is a masochist. But I do wish in MXTX's writing she would make them talk it out a little bit more so that the audience kind of knows that that's for sure. And I wish it would come out of Shin Qingqiu's mouth instead of other people kind of interpreting what they think he's like in the story. But we still have chapter 100 and the other chapters to get through, so maybe that will occur. Maybe if any of these chapters are going through Shang Qinghua and his development across this series, maybe Shin Qingqiu will show up again. We don't know. We don't know how that's going to go. That would be really cool if it happened. So we'll just have to see if that's the case. But yeah. And then, of course, everybody, and of course, Shin Qingqiu or Shin Yan hates Shin Qingqiu before he transmigrates into him. So then we have Sangzhong Mountain Stair Cleaner, which is a great name. And then we have who is the Yu Qingyan fangirl or fanboy, either way, or fan in general. Then we have Warrior's Hammer, which a lot of these nicknames are all very sexual. Refusing to be a plot holder is great. I love it. I love this. Feels like a Discord. This whole thing felt like a Discord rant, and I felt like I was reading a Discord chat, which is amazing. Then we have Sangzhong Mountain. We have Sangzhong Mountain Guard Platoon, which is great, and they also are a Yu Qingyan shipper as well. Then we have a Liu Qingge fan, Qingge's blood brother, which is fun. And then we have occasionally filling holes. Again, yes, like blood brothers, occasionally filling holes. All of these are sexual. What? And then, now, Peerless Cucumber saying this forum has a lot of green JJ sisters. I wondered if that was like something slightly homophobic from Shin Qingqiu or Shin Yan in that moment, saying that they must be Danmai lovers. And then they were calling him, like, at one point they call Airplane a Fudanshi. So I'm like, is there like a little bit of inherent homophobia in this chat here? Is what it kind of sounded like. Because then we have a stately waiter. There's actually more people involved in this than I thought. Okay. So then 14 was a stately waiter. Person number 15 is, my favorite is hoeing wheat is my noontime occupation. Freaking love that title. Hoeing wheat is my noontime occupation. Freaking love it. And then we have looking for friends at the North Pole every day. Looking for friends at the North Pole every day. I feel like that's also a metaphor for something. Maybe. Who knows? But then they talk about, like, where was the part where they said he was a Fudanshi? Yeah, Cucumber Bro. Like, to be fair, Shin Yan, he takes everything pretty on the nose and doesn't get bothered by it, which is pretty fun. But yeah, so then, what kills Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky? Him being an asshole. Him being an asshole kills him. Like, he basically goes to Shin Yan and chides him, being like, well, you hate my novel, but you've paid all this money towards it, and you just can't escape it because you're like in an abusive relationship with my book, right? And you just can't go back. You're Stockholm syndromed into it. And he's like, why can't I just not quit this book? And so Great Master Airplane's biggest mistake is saying your mouth says no, but your body says yes, which I feel like the fact that he dies right after saying that is showing that that mentality is wrong and that MXTX is blatantly calling it out and saying that people that live by that standard, here's what you get. And now you get your just desserts. And that's exactly what ends up happening with Shin Qingqiu. Or with Shang Qinghua. All these characters with their Shin and Shangs. So yeah. And then he gets transmigrated. Now, could we wonder what happened in those formidable years as he was growing up from infanthood into Shang Qinghua's body? Because he's had a long time to think about what he's going to do when he reaches this age. Sure, we could question that. Could we question how he finished the story without being there? Sure, we could question that, but who knows, right? Maybe he was working on the extras at the time and the rest of the novel was published. Who knows? But yeah, so then we cut to him at the sect and he's talking about they're basically like a cross between just managerial, like just librarians and also like Amazon temp workers. That's like what they're cross between, like librarians and just temp workers, moving books and shelves and supplies around. And of course, I love that Shang Qinghua is like, I can't complain. I wrote the story this way. He was trying to basically be Charles Dickens and get paid by the word. And it just has horribly backfired on him now that he's actually in the story itself. Now, one thing I really love is the fact that the system for Shang Qinghua, the system for Shin Qingqiu is very verbose and likes to be very dramatic, which fits Shin Qingqiu. But I love for Shang Qinghua, it's just like rule violation, point deduction. Like it's so matter of fact, doesn't get into any specifics or doesn't embellish anything. It's just like, here's what I'm telling you, you're screwed. I love them sounding so disinterested. I like the voice of them sounding just so disinterested. But yeah, the fact that he gets his own system, which I'm assuming is a transmigrated trope, right? But I like that Shang Qinghua blames OP. He doesn't blame himself for being smug and sitting back and watching people argue and then getting smug about Xinyan. No, he doesn't blame himself. It must be someone else's fault, which, interesting. So yeah, so his whole plan is that he does not want the events of the novel to happen as they were supposed to. So much like Shin Qingqiu, his plan is just, I'm going to ride this out and I'm going to, get out of town if I can and avoid Mobaijun and avoid all these problems. And then everything will be much easier for me. He's like, I know how to make a fire. I know how to get food. I'll be fine. If I can just do that, I'll have all my problems solved. And that's not what happens because the system is not going to let him get out of not meeting Mobaijun. I love it. He's like, upcoming mission. And he's like, what? And then, yes, I like that Mobaijun's anger points are already at 1,000 and he just arrived. And my favorite was mission objective, survive. It's so good. But yeah, so basically, I like that we also have ex-Shizhong, like they're not even dignified with a name. They're literally just a fodder character and that's it. But I love the voice and perspective that Shang Qinghua gives us. I love their point of view. I love how snarky they are. I love how they think they're a know-it-all. And we all, as the audience, can kind of see through it. And I love that we're seeing a different facet of the story through his point of view. Honestly, looking at all of these commenters on here, the one thing that's so crazy about this story, and we've talked about it in weeks prior and your mind just kind of gets overloaded with all the possibilities with fan fiction and everything that can be involved with it. And you're just kind of like, it's such a massive overload of information. The one thing that just floors me is that I thought at some point in this story, what was going to happen was the moment we met Shang Qinghua and found out he had transmigrated as airplanes shooting towards the sky into the story, I was fully anticipating other characters getting transmigrated into. And I thought that one of the plot twists in volume 4 was going to be that one of the villains that we thought was there was actually somebody else that had transmigrated. I thought it was going to be a whole thing. It wasn't. And doesn't seem like it's going to be, but you could easily take any of these 16 commenters from the story and you could easily have any of them transmigrate into the story. Like you could have Xia Hualing's fangirl transmigrate into Liu Mingyan and tell the story from her perspective and do a whole thing with that. Like, you could do that. You could have the person who is the stair cleaner, like, transmigrate into Liu Qingge and then fall in love with Yu Qingyan. Like, there are so many possibilities with this story and what direction it could go in that I get it. I get why you could have infinite fan fiction about this series, and technically it all could be canon. That's so wild. That's so wild. And the fact that Shang Qinghua is trying to manipulate the system to survive, knowing that that's okay, because this is literally, he's like, I've literally been choosing my own adventure as I've wrote this novel. So the result of that is all of these, it's kind of like this weird mutated butterfly effect where as Shang Qinghua has gone, it's like he started out here, and then this was plotline A, but he wrote plotline B and plotline C to see which one people would rather read. And then people voted for B. So he did this route, and he's like, well, I have B1, but I also have B2, and I also have B3. And then he saw, well, which one does everybody seem like they're going towards? Oh, they're kind of going towards B3. Okay, well, then that takes me to B3 blue and B3 green. And then we go from there. So you have, I mean, Shang Qinghua has literally set the story up to have all these multiple avenues that you could go on, all these multiple possibilities of where the story should go and could go. So he doesn't feel bad at all changing the story, because he's like, well, this is how it inherently is designed. Like, I kept thinking of Wreck-It Ralph. In Wreck-It Ralph, which I love that movie so much, in Wreck-It Ralph, there is this character that is kind of not supposed to be somewhere, and they're written out of the story. And that's what this reminded me of, was that it reminded me of a character written out of the story. But there's still always, like, the Wreck-It Ralph takes place in a video game, kind of like this similarly. And then you have a character that their whole storyline was written out of the series. And so, but they're there. They're still there. The character's there. The plot lines are there. They're just kind of hidden. So that reminded me of Tianlong Jun in this story. So there's all these different angles and avenues. Obviously, my question is Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky going to immediately do what Shin Ching-cho had in mind as well, and clutch the thighs of Mobe Jun and be like, please, sir, don't kill me? I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And unfortunately, the novel thinks that I should know that that's what's going to happen, because as this chapter ended, the only page that I was given is a picture of Shang Qinghua clutching Mobe Jun's thighs. Unfortunately, the chapter ended right like at the top section, and I was like, son of a bitch. But that's the picture. It's going to be on the thumbnail. That's Shang Qinghua being like, please, sir, don't kill me. I can't believe they ended the chapter there. MXTX, how dare you? How dare you? How could you? We were rooting for you. But yeah, I just like the idea that Shang Qinghua is like, what do? I've got to find a way to not die. And so I also like the fact that the ex-Shizhong that's around him, he's like, what should I do? And he's like, oh, well, that's simple. You just defeat the demon and do the righteous thing. That's what anyone would do. And Shang Qinghua is like, well, fuck that. Oh my God, I love it so much. And then, yeah, he tries to get away, but it doesn't work. And he's like, I don't want to go out and face him. But that's not what happens. And so he's like, well, you got to go. The opportunity's right there. And Shang Qinghua is like, if I don't face him, and my dog's going to bark. If I don't face him, then I'm probably going to die anyway. So the best thing I can do is go try to farm points, earn favor points with Mobe Jun, and go from there. So I'm really excited. What are you two doing? Huckleberry! Ridiculous. So they're just going to chase each other and be ridiculous. Hey, Huckleberry. No. He was just like, screw you. Just completely ignored me. I'm really excited. Hopefully you all can hear that. I'm really excited. Oh my God. They're crazy. I'm really excited to see how this relationship develops between Mo Bei-jun and Shang Qinghua. Will it be a la Beauty and the Beast, tale as old as time? I feel like it's gonna be like if Mo Bei-jun fell in love with Cogsworth. Is what I feel like it's gonna be. But here's the thing. What are you doing? Come here. Come here. Ridiculous. But what I really like is that we can tell from Shin-Ching Cho's posts in chapter 73, we can tell that Shin-Ching Cho has some hidden interests in Lo Bing-hei himself. And we can kind of see and read through the subtext and be like, bro, you didn't even realize. But the thing about it is that from this chapter perspective, Shang Qinghua he seems even more oblivious or even more in denial than Shin-Ching Cho ever was about his sexuality and about his interest in Mo Bei-jun. So I'm going to be very interested to see in the chapter or chapters, depending on how many we're going to involve Shang Qinghua in. I'm really curious to see if we get to a point where we see the relationship develop between the two of them, what leads to that development, and is Shang Qinghua going to have, like, what is going to cause Shang Qinghua's sexual awakening? That's my big thing, because Shin-Ching Cho, we could argue that he had it down bad for Lo Bing-hei as early as before his transmigration even began. We can argue that. He was down to clown before it even started. But Shang Qinghua, even though we know from the novel drafts that he's wrote, like with Shinju and Yu Qingyan, and like with Tianlong Jun, we know that there's romantic bones in Airplane's body. We know that he has these, like, this context that he had thought up already. So the question is, how aware was he of it? And is what's going to cause Shang Qinghua's sexual awakening to realize that he does like Mo Bei-jun? I want to see this, and I'm really hopeful that that's what we're going to get going into these next several episodes, or these next several chapters. Hopefully, at least chapter 96 next week is going to involve that. So I'm super, super excited that we're at least going to get that far. But yeah, I can't believe that the chapter ended there. I can't believe it ended there, that Shang Qinghua was like, fine, I'm going to go. It'll be okay. He's going to bitch the whole way about it, but it's going to be fine. I'm so excited, y'all. So yes, next week we're going to be looking at chapter 96, which is 58 to 68, 68 to 78. It's 20 something. It's a little bit longer than this chapter. It's a little bit longer. But we're going to look at it. I was like, "Oh my god." I did split these chapters up because I didn't want to read 50 pages after that giant section that was chapter 94. So I'm sorry if these weeks are a little bit shorter than usual, but I'm so ready. Y'all, this has invigorated me. This has gotten me excited for 2025. And the last several chapters of Scum Villain, I'm kind of on cloud 9 right now. And I'm sorry this is not a long video this week, but I'm super excited. So I'm going to wait and look at the comments next week. I'm going to wait for Be Happy to send me the comments, but then I'm going to dive right into chapter 96, y'all. Y'all don't even know. Anyway, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you all have an amazing week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, I'm going to be back real soon. I can't wait to hear your comments about this chapter set, but I'm going to be back real soon with more of Scum Villain's self-saving system.